The story of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is essentially a story of a superhero who discovers his vulnerability. And that's what Puss in Boots is missing in his life. So all of us who are working on this movie took our own experiences of feeling fear, feeling anxiety, feeling weak, and said, how can we kind of push Puss in Boots into this corner?
His flaw is that he's not willing to lower his legend to be vulnerable and make these meaningful connections with people. So Panic Attack evolved as a necessity for us to force him to be vulnerable.
It wasn't like we started with the idea of Puss having a panic attack. It sort of nearly naturally occurred when we were trying to say, how do we show how scared Puss is?
Puss? Puss? Puss!
The first time we assembled the film, there was no panic attack. And it's always a tricky balance when you're trying to make a movie that you want, for the most part, to be as much fun and funny and as exciting as possible, to suddenly have this very kind of scary, tense moment.
He's always got the shield up that's projecting invincibility until his fear, his anxiety, push him into this corner where he drops that shield, which opened him up for Perrito to come in and show him what a connection can be.
We knew we had to work towards a moment where you could really feel the stakes of how that experience impacts him. That, along with the character arc of Perrito, we know we wanted a moment too of like him showing that he actually is a good therapy dog and a good friend.
You know, we're just come out of a really action-packed sequence with a lot of color, a lot of vibrancy, and we wanted to really bring the world down, center it really just around Puss, changing the palette, thinning out the environment, dropping the focus, going into that space where it was really just kind of almost blurry around everything except for him, and almost feel like the entire environment changed based off of his own emotional experience.
He can't see straight, he can't hear, and then the only thing he has left is his sense of touch. There's no math to it, you have to feel it. And when that head rests on Puss's stomach, it just felt like that's it. That's the moment that's turning this scene.
I think there's always a little bit of back and forth in between what maybe a human would do in a frame to do that specific action, and also kind of look at how a dog would approach it. One of the guys from the studio told me the other day, was like, hey, you know, my dog does exactly that. Like, it's exactly the same way. So there's a lot of study that goes into like how a dog would actually just rest his head on your belly when you're maybe feeling down, or maybe they just want to, you know, just finding that right mechanics, that right like intention from an animal perspective, but also kind of get the human or more emotional aspect of it.
It makes me cry when I watch the scene because it's born out of this moment of helplessness and love, and Perrito just really wants to help, and that's all he can think of to do. But it's so powerful, like it calms Puss down, it brings him out of his panic attack, and then he's able to open up to Dog about what's really bothering him, and Perrito becomes a real therapy dog there because Puss is, you know, confessing to him about what's going on, just something he would never do before.
I think that's what excited us too, where in a movie that is so high octane and hilarious as it should be for a family film, we knew that to have a serious, poignant moment that's very real between two characters would stand out as an emotional set piece that you could feel and appreciate when the movie slows down to this point.
Because it's that moment where it is the first time you see him that way. There's a little bit more creative liberties there. We have access to Antonio recording the dialogue, so we can get a lot from his performance, combining all of these to make the most believable performance possible on screen.
Antonio's performance was fantastic. It was actually difficult sometimes choosing the takes. And as well with Harvey, you know, he's bringing a great deal of comedy, but he really leaned into the warmth and the sweetness and the caring for Puss, and you can feel it in his performance. You feel how much Perrito loves Puss.
Thank you, Perrito.
What's going on with you, Puss?
I am down to my last life.
So there were early versions that felt kind of jokey. Puss was talking the whole time and he would say everything he was feeling and it just didn't feel right. And then even when we got the first pass of the script, I felt like there was still too many words. Like, can we tell this story without dialogue and just really feel what they're feeling, see what they're seeing, hear what they're hearing, and just play it with sincerity?
As a writer, you know, one of the last things you're gonna think of is like less talking. But it was a good scene, it was dramatic, but it just wasn't quite landing and feeling authentic. And then at some point, the idea came up like, let's just try less here. Losing a lot of the dialogue, and I knew it was gonna work when I saw those storyboards because, you know, I was feeling it in the moment as Taylor was like pitching the scene. I thought, this works better than any written version, and of course it does. It's animation, it's pantomime. Animation does that better than anything else.
You really have to nail everything. You have to nail the expression, you have to nail that feeling, you have to nail that heartbeat, you have to nail when do you calm down, right? When do you come out of that panic to be able to kind of start to talk about the problem?
You should tell Kitty. She would
No,
understand.
no, she cannot hear of this.
Okay.
We wanted to create this full spectrum of emotion of what life can be. You can laugh, you can cry, you can be afraid. And so when it came time for this panic attack, we knew it had to be authentic. We knew it had to be genuine and not shy away from the real feelings all of us as human beings have.
It's just, it takes your breath away as one of the filmmakers to see that come to life and to see, since the films come out, to see the way people are discussing it and how, you know, people have felt that, you know, some people have said it's the most realistic portrayal of a panic attack.
All we had to do was stay true to Puss, and I feel like the story tells you what it wants it to be. And it was the first time I've ever heard an audience like audibly, you know, react to an emotional moment like that, where the whole theater was just like, "Aw."
So I'm getting emotional thinking about it right now because for people to understand like the story and the message you're telling, that's everything. And when someone tells you that your voice and your sensibility is emotionally resonating with them, yeah, it's just, it's exactly why we do this.
I think animated movies are everyone movies, or at least Puss in Boots, we wanted to make it for everyone. And I think the experience of this panic attack, it's something that happens to a lot of people, and it's treated with sincerity. Even though it's an animated movie and this is a cat and a dog we're talking about, it's something that they can actually relate to.
I knew the moment worked when we watched the movie as a whole, but seeing how it has emotionally touched people and hearing their responses, that's really gratifying.
Maybe you should tell that to Kitty. Might make you feel better. Might make her feel better too.